Right, today I'm in Manchester with Paul Krishnamurti. Thanks very much for agreeing to do this
Pleasure.
today, Paul. Well, can you tell people watching, what is it you do for a living? Describe what you do.
Okay, so I always describe myself as a political gambler and a betting analyst, whether that is on politics or sport.
Okay, and you make a living from that.
Yeah, I've made a living professionally since 2003.
So you mentioned that you bet on sports and political markets. Which would be your most profitable area?
Cricket, definitely, because I do that basically every day, any match anywhere in the world. You know, Bangladesh v South Africa or the Pakistan Super League, because it's on every day. Politics is probably similar in the success rate over the 20 years or something, but obviously politics, it doesn't take place every week. You only get an election every so often or a leadership contest. And the other two sports I play, again, snooker. I've got tremendous success rate at snooker, but it's not on that much. You know, it's been much better the last couple of years. There's been more tournaments, but if it's on, then I will focus big time on that. And other than that, golf, which I've been doing for years as well.
Okay, so why do you focus on those particular sports?
So it was really a process of elimination. You know, I was in the gambling industry for a long time, and it was, you know, pricing up markets, pricing up in running, really sort of came second nature. And you know, when I was a kid, when I was a teenager, I gambled on everything and I took bets on everything. And you know, when I started to take it more seriously, more professionally, you just realise that you've got to cut out the things that just aren't that productive. It's a waste of your energy and your time focusing. You know, I like horse racing, I like football, but I'll bet on horse racing or bet on football for a bit of fun, because I can't have the success rate I have in those sports.
Right, so some people might be a bit surprised that if you bet for a living that you still have fun bets.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you want a day out of the races, what are you going to do? Not have a bet, you know?
Bet the racecourse bookies, hopefully.
Yeah.
So what would be your edge on? Is it knowing more than everybody else?
Yeah, it's knowledge. It's knowledge and understanding of markets and being able to price things up. I mean, the first thing I'd say to anyone who's serious about betting is you've got to have knowledge and you've got to be committed to it. You know, again, part of the reason I don't do horse racing, for example, is because whilst I used to know a lot about horse racing, the time involved in knowing, in watching old races, in reading form, is extensive. Whereas, say, a sport like cricket, the players never really change. It's the same set of players playing for this team or that team. It's on every day, so you don't really do much research at all. It's a few minutes on the internet. So yeah, knowledge, and then also just being able to price things up. You can only get that with experience in bookmaking.
Mate, so give us a bit about your background then.
So I got into gambling when I was about 13. I was a total nerd. I've always been a total nerd. When I was a kid, I used to follow the world snooker rankings down to number 100, right? You know, in my little book, I used to monitor the performances of all the players in the various football leagues through reading Shoot and Match. And then I got to 13, and my sister's friend was looking after me when I was going to the football down in Southampton, and he took me to he said, look, just wait outside, mate, I've got to go to the bookies. And he brought out a football coupon with him, and I was just addicted. I was like, wow, I can win money predicting this thing that I'm totally obsessed with. So I went back and I became a school bookie, basically, and I had in my head at the age of 14, 15, I'm going to work in the industry as soon as I'm 18. And really that was an inevitable path. When I was 18, I went and worked in the industry for 7 years, and you know, I've never really been out of it.
So many of my interviewees have admitted they were the school bookie, including John McCruick. Did you price them up yourself, or did you offer the bookies odds? And how many takers did you get in school?
So in the first place, in the first instance, it was literally a case of bringing the football coupon to school, right, and getting people to engage in it, talk about it really. But then I would do the live matches, right? So you know, you used to get one match a week back then in the 80s. But what I would do is I would basically write the prices down in the shop and take a point off everything, right? And then as soon as I was in the industry, I wanted to know how to price things up. And when I was a manager, I did settling courses. So suddenly I knew about overrounds and percentages. And once I knew that, I was never going to go back.
So what gave you the idea to be a school bookie in the first place? Was the motivation money?
No. Well, I suppose it was, but it was more a case, it was about being right. It was about, I wanted other people to engage in this thing that I was just so into. I mean, when I saw a football coupon, when I first got that football coupon and took it home, I probably studied it for 6 hours. It was with maths, right? And, I loved all that. I mean, if you're really into sport, isn't betting just second nature? If you love tennis, if you love Wimbledon, right? And you've got an opinion that back then it would have been Pat Cash or Ivan Lendl or someone, right? And you really think this Pat Cash or you really want that, why wouldn't you have 50p on him at 10-1? And there was that sort of bet. You could go around. I'd probably take 30 or 40 bets on something like the Open or the Wimbledon, all at maximum bet £1 or something. But everyone was happy with it. There was never any complaints. No one ever got any trouble,
Well, do you think school bookies still exist these days when gambling? I mean, like you say, I totally agree. And I'm guessing many people watching this will, that there's nothing wrong with it. But it's being given a stigma by people in the political arena. Do you think, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, my school weren't in favour. I got in a bit of trouble over it, but I didn't really care. I doubt it exists so much now, apart from anything, because they've all got mobile phones. They watch Sky Sports, so they know a bit more about it. But the political conversation is a bit crazy, really. I mean, if you really wanted to be against gambling, then you'd look at the whole big picture, wouldn't you? You'd look at advertising, you'd look at the fact that it's normalised. You wouldn't then just say, oh no, it's these specific machines in these shops that's doing all the damage. If we just take the machines away, it'll all be fine. We've made that decision now as a country, and what are we going to do? Not have all the sports sponsored by bookies? What are we going to do? Not have who's going to pay for all the adverts on Sky Sports?
No. Yeah, that's a very good question. Now, you were so keen that you started working in a William Hill betting shop aged 18. And then you went on to be a manager for an independent at 25. Was it just the draw of the what you love so much that made you go into betting shops, or?
Yeah, I mean, before I was 18, I was in the bookies all the time with my £5 trying to turn it into 10, And so as soon as I was old enough to know I could get a job, and then once you get the job and you think, if you're a gambler, you just get in, you put the papers up in the morning, and then you've got 3 hours to read the Racing Post and plan the day, and then watch it all. So it was a busman's holiday, as it were. But so I did that for 7 years. But after about 4 or 5, I was fed up of it. I didn't like the nights, the Sunday racing, etc. So I pursued something else.
And that something else was going to university as a mature student to study politics. Why that direction?
Well, I could have done, I always knew I could have gone to university from school. Right, literally started in sixth form, I did history and politics, I did one essay on American politics, got a B+, and then I won 150 quid on a play spot the next day. Right. And at Newmarket, I think it was in October sort of time, so whether that meeting is a Dewhurst meeting, I think. I never looked back. Once I got that, it was like, nah, I'm not going back, I'm just going to gamble and, chance my arm. But obviously I regretted that, and a lot of my friends went to university, and they were quite, I would sit and talk about politics and elections and everything else and culture. And I just, by my early 20s, I was like, no, I've got to do this. This is my passion. So when I went to uni, it was really, I didn't have any intention on staying in the betting industry at all. I continued to gamble to supplement my income at uni, but it was a new path, as it were.
So why, you said it was your passion. Was your passion to go and get a good education, or was politics your passion?
Politics. And a good edge, both. I've got that sort of mind, I've got an inquisitive mind. So the moment that I started engaging in politics as an adult, I just wanted to know more. I was just boring everybody talking about it. I might as well go and you know, talk to people who really do. And then when I actually went to the interview at uni, I was just blown away. You go to the library and there's all that knowledge. It's like anything you want to find out in front of you. And I just embraced that. I really, you know, it was a very exciting thing.
So when you finished university, you came out and you got a job in politics and off you went?
No. No, well, because of course, you know, you're graduating at, how old would I have been, 28. You know, you've got a life to pay for now, you're an adult. And so I did two things. First of all, I started working as an intern for a Newsnight journalist, who's an American political journalist, who actually, with hindsight, very influential on me, But that was small money, you know, that was a bit of part-time money, right, and an experience. So I needed a full-time job to supplement it, so I went to work at SOS, the racing channel, which was the perfect part-time job. It was exactly as Betfair was coming into relevance, and I've never worked with a shrewder bunch of people. We had an office full of guys who just love sport and love gambling, and 20 TVs, watching them all. And I guess immediately it became apparent, as well as political betting options that had become available, that, well, hang on, like 3 years ago when I left, or 4 years ago when I left work, there wasn't much future in this for me. Now, I could see absolutely how I could make a living on Betfair.
But before you did that, you went to 365. You were in 365.
Yeah. So for 2.5 years after leaving uni, I was basically working in the betting industry, doing a bit of investigative journalism that then got dropped in my spare time, but also I was practicing to be a professional. So my last year at 365, because my job there was week on, week off nights, so I got a lot of spare time. During that last year, I practiced Betfair as a sort of semi-part-time thing, and I made a good living doing that. And it was like, okay, I can do this now. I'm ready.
So what were you actually doing at 365?
I was working in content. It was editing teletext, editing the website. It was no form of like actual gambling. It was just content.